In this video, I'm going to cover the Adobe Premiere Toolbar, which includes the Selection tool, Select all tracks forward and backward, the Ripple Edit and Rolling Edit keys, the Rate Stretch, Razor tool, Slip tool and Slide tool, the Pen tool, Ellipse tool and Rectangle tool, the Hand tool, Zoom tool, and the Type tool. Okay, now the V key is the Selection tool, and it's right up here in the Tools bar over here. Probably the most common tool you're going to use. I try to get in the habit of always go back and selecting V after I'm finished using a tool to make sure I don't use the tool by mistake somewhere else. So for instance, if I was using the Razor key, either if I hit the C or went over here and selected it, and I was using it, create a cut, create another cut, and then I hit the V key here, that lets me select the clip, and then I might hit Shift Delete to do a ripple delete there. And then I'm right back to the selection key. But you know, if I go back to this key, or if I use the slide tool or the slip tool, I want to get in the habit of going back and hitting the V key in between to make sure I don't use that tool by mistake. So it's really common to keep your finger over the V tool just so that you can select easily. I actually have a mouse button set up for the V key because I use it so often. The one place you actually have to come over here and do the selection tool is if you're using the text tool and you create a bunch of text in here, and I wanted to move this or adjust it. If I hit the V key to get the selection tool, it just puts a V in, obviously. So you actually have to come over here, grab the selection tool, you know, change your height or move it around, whatever you want to do. That's the one place that I found that I have to actually go over to the toolbar and grab the selection tool instead of hitting V. So that is the V key and is the selection tool. Okay, the A key and the Shift A key is select all tracks forward. So the A key, so basically wherever you bring your cursor here, and it'll select that clip and all the tracks forward of that. Just makes it easier to move a bunch of tracks forward all at once. It grabs all those tracks and Control Z. And the same thing with a Shift A, and it selects all tracks backwards. So the only additional one to that is the Control A. And what Control A does is it selects all clips in your entire timeline. And that could be handy if you wanted to, for instance, drag your entire project and move it forward and create a gap at the front to maybe put in an intro or something. But that's those. So you Control Z and bring that back. So that was the A key, which is tracks forward, the Shift A key, which is select all tracks backward, and then the Control A key, which is select all tracks and clips. Okay, we're going to do the ripple edit, but before we go over ripple edit, I just want to show a normal edit. See that each track or each clip has got a head and a tail, and these are red, and you can either grab these and make them shorter or make them longer on each side. And that's just a normal clip edit. What a ripple edit does, if you have a clip in here and you want to change the tail or the head, if you hit the B key and it makes that yellow, and now when you move it and change the size of it, it closes the gap after it does it. Hit Control Z. Now if I don't have that activated and it's red and I do that, it just leaves the gap. So what the ripple edit does is it turns it yellow, so you know that you're working with the ripple edit. You got the B key on, and as it changes the size, it also closes the gap, versus just a regular edit, which will not do that. Now another way to access ripple edit is to hit the Control key when you're over the tail or the head of a clip. You can hit the Control key and it turns it yellow. So just like that. So if you're in the tail of the head and it turns it yellow, that's will create a ripple edit. So like normally I would just do it like this, and it leaves a gap. Control Z. But now we'll hit the Control key and do it, and it will automatically close the gap and do a ripple edit. So that's ripple edit. Okay, now the N key is the rolling edit. To do rolling edits, and there's a couple different ways to get to rolling edit. One is you can just go over here and select it from this right here on the list right here of your tools, and that's rolling edit, and it shows it's the N key. You can hit the N key and it activates the rolling edit when you go over your endpoints, or as you are rolling over a track, and just like before with the ripple edit, you hit the control key and it would turn the regular edit into a rolling edit, would turn yellow. Same thing now, when you hit the control key over the middle of the endpoint, it turns into the rolling edit key. So you've got 3 different ways to get to the rolling edit. So what rolling edit does, let's hit the end key. And let's say you got these 2 clips right here, and you just want to change what the start and stop points are on these 2 tracks. So you want to change where the track on the left ends and where the track on the right begins. You can just roll this back and forth, and then you'll have a new beginning and end. You can see on the program monitor where those beginning and end points are going to be, and it helps you find the exact spot that you're looking for on those 2 tracks. So that's rolling edit. It basically does not change the length of the 2 clips in the timeline or the position in the timeline. It just changes the stop point on the track on the left and the start point on the track on the right, and adjusts it to the way you like it. Now, one problem with this, if you have, let's right here, we have 2 tracks. The track on the left right here is all the way to its endpoint. There's nothing edited at the end. And then at the track on the right, it's at the beginning of its track endpoint. So there's no room either on this track, on the track on the right, to expand left, and there's no room on the track on the left here to expand to the right. So if I try and grab this with the rolling edit tool, it's not going to be able to do anything, because we are at its at that clip's endpoint. It can't go any further. So because this track on the left is at its endpoint, it won't let you drag it to the right and move right into that clip. And since this track on the left here is at its beginning endpoint, it won't let you drag to the left and expand into the left track. So look for these little arrows right here at the top of the clip, and that tells you that they're at the endpoints. If I move this clip here, let me just move this and move this up so you can see it. You'll see this little arrow with this little triangle right here, and in the little triangle here on the left. It just tells you that that clip is at its endpoint. It can't be edited anymore that way, and this one can't be edited anymore to the right. So you'll see that. So when you see them together like that, it'll look like a little triangle in the corner. So that's just a little trick you got to be aware of for rolling edit, that you can't edit those. And so that was N, rolling edit, and there's 3 ways to get to it. One is to hit the control key over your in the middle of your edit point, and then the rolling edit key, tool can be grabbed over here from the toolbar, or the N key. Now the rate stretch tool is the R key, and you can also access a rate stretch over here in the tools menu, rate stretch R tool. And what the rate stretch tool does is we just hit the R key, and when we hover over the endpoints of a track or a clip, it gives us these markers right here. And what it does is it can either slow down or speed up your clip. So for instance, this clip right here, let's say we wanted to speed this whole thing up. Instead of taking all this time, we just grab the end of the clip and we drag it down. It's saying it. So it took it from a 20-second clip, you'll see on the left there, and now we're going to bring it down to 2 seconds. So now when we go and we hover over this clip and we play it, it plays in super fast time here. And if we use our scroll out here, it'll actually tell us, says it's speeded up to 787%. You can't see that unless you zoom in. A lot of times it'll be like this. If you really want to see, a lot of times I try to keep things around 600%. So I'll drag it back out again, and I'll get to that magical 600% that I like to use a lot of the time, and just quickly be able to change your the speed of your clip. Now let me hit Control R a couple times here, and so now we're back to Control R, Control Z. Okay, we're back to our normal clip right here. And so we're at normal speed. And let's say, for instance, I want to do the opposite. So let's say I'll take a little piece of this clip. Let's see this beginning point here, and then I'll use my Q key. And then I'll come down to here, and I'm going to stop there. I'm going to use my W key. So we've trimmed this piece of footage here, but I want this to be in slow-mo. So I can do the exact opposite of speeding it up. I use my R for my rate stretch tool. I grab the end of the clip, and when I start dragging, it started at 7 seconds, but I'm going to drag it out. Let's say I want that to be 25 seconds. So now when this plays, and it says right there, it's at 27% of the original speed now. So now when it plays in super slow motion, and you get that effect right there. It's just an awesome tool. I use it all the time, mostly for speeding things up. I don't use it for slowing things down very much, but it works the same way. Now, the other thing you can do to change this is you can right-click on it, and then you can go to your speed duration. It'll actually tell you in your speed duration part right here. Whoops. It'll tell you in your speed duration here where you are in your speed right there. So you can actually just go and make a change right there and make it to 60 instead. And it changes your clip and goes back to 60% now. So there's a couple different ways to adjust the speed of your clip. And that is the rate stretch tool over here in the tools, or you can shortcut it by hitting the R key and holding it over the ends of your clip. Okay, the C key is the razor tool, and it's very simple. It's one of the most commonly used tools. And we hit the C key and it brings up this little symbol of the razor. And very simply, wherever you hold this razor over your clip, it will create a cut. Now, the way I commonly use the razor tool is I move the playhead to where I like it, want to make the cut so I can see where I'm cutting. Then I bring in the razor tool, and then the razor will snap to that playhead. So as long as it's pretty close, it will snap to the playhead and create a cut. If you don't have your snaps on, it will actually allow you to create a cut like really close to the playhead. Now, if I zoom in here, you'll see it actually made that cut not at the playhead, but it made it close to the playhead. So it's important to have your snaps on when you're cutting at the playhead to make sure it just has to be close, and it will snap to the playhead and make the cut there. So it's a C tool. Very common thing to do is to create two cuts, and then I hit select key with the V key. I select it, and then I hit ripple delete, which is shift delete, and I have that set to a hotkey in X. But so that's just the way. It's the C key. Very simple. One of the most commonly used keys. Now the slip tool is the Y key, and you can also access the slip tool over here by by going here. Here's the slip tool, and it says it's the Y key. Or you can just hit Y, and then the slip tool shows up when you're inside of a clip like this. And what the slip tool does, it'll just change the beginning and ending of this clip, but does not change the position of this clip in the timeline, and doesn't change the length of the clip in the timeline. It just changes the beginning and end point. So for instance, in this clip, I have the beginning of it, just the little piece of it, me turning on the faucet, but I wanted to have this whole clip turning on to the faucet. So I'm going to slip this clip right here. And what I want it to do, you'll see in the top left-hand corner is the clip on the very far left, and the upper right-hand corner is the clip on the very far right. And those are the ends and beginnings of those clips. And in the bottom of that program monitor, we have the beginning and ending point of where I'll be in that clip. But I want it to go further into the clip, so I want to see more of my hand moving. So there in the beginning, and the end clip, it's still moving. So I want to make it so where I'm starting to come when I come in and end there. And so now that I've slipped that clip, I come in, I'm already adjusting the faucet and all the way through, and my hand is in the ends right at the end of the clip right there. And that's what I want. Basically, all I did was time shifted where the beginning and end point of this middle clip was, but did not change its position in the timeline, and did not change the length of the clip. It just slipped the beginning and end point of the clip in the program monitor. And the cool thing is that you get to see all this data in the program monitor. You get to see the clip on the far left, the clip on the far right, and then the start and beginning, the start point and the end point of the clip that you're slipping, and its time code in the program monitor. So that is the slip the Y key, which can also be accessed over here in the Tools menu. Now what the slide tool is, it's the U key, which you can access over here in your tool menus under slide tool, U, or you can hit the U key. Oops, hit V. When you're in the selection, you hit U, it turns it into the slide tool. That's the slide tool symbol. And what the slide tool does is it does not change the length of your clip in the middle of the two clips. It changes its position between two clips. So what it will do is if you grab it, it will, and you move it left, it'll actually shorten the clip on the left and lengthen the clip on the right of the clip that you're moving. But the clip in the middle itself does not change. So you'll see up here in the program monitor, it has at the very top, it has the start frame and end frame of the clip that we're sliding. And then on the bottom of the program monitor, it'll have the clip on the left endpoint and the clip on the right beginning point, and it will show you the time codes of those starts, and it helps you like figure out where you want to position this clip in between those two clips, and that is the slide tool. And wherever you end, it will it'll leave it there. So you just grab it and you can move it. And it will also tell you how far forward or back you're moving it. It's just telling you the number of frames that it's moving it. So right there, I've moved it 2 seconds and 10 frames forward into the shift. So now you'll see it. This is the end point right there, and this is the new beginning point where I'm coming in. But if I want to slide that some more, I can slide it, and now here's the new end point where I'm walking back, and here's the new beginning point where I'm already inside the wet base. So that is the slide tool, and it basically does not change the length of the clip in the middle. It changes the start point and the end point of the clips adjacent to it, and it just slides that clip up and down the 2 points. Now the important thing to note with this is that make sure that you see these little triangles here. You can't have triangles on the adjacent clips because those are those clips endpoints, and obviously you can't edit past those endpoints. So just keep that in mind when using the slide tool or the slip tool or the ripple edit tool or rolling edit tool. Okay, 3 more tools we have over here on the toolbar are the pen tool, the rectangle tool, and the ellipse tool. And I'm just going to go over these very briefly, but the important thing to have when you're working with these tools, these graphics tools, make sure you have the window essential graphics open so that when you go to work on them, you can create and edit your tool as you put it in there. So let's say, for instance, we want to use the pen tool and we want to create a custom shape or create a box around this box right here to, highlight it. So I would hit a pen tool here, here, and here, and then close it. And I don't want to fill it, so I'll uncheck the fill. And let's say I don't want this to be blue. I want this to be, let's say I want this to be red. We'll drag it up here and we'll go here, red. And let's say I want that to be wider. I want that to be 40, hit enter. Okay, so now I have, hit my V tool. Now I have this shape right here, and I can move it around, or I can scale it, or whatever I want to do with it, and move it to where I want. And here it is on the timeline. Let's zoom in here on the timeline. And then of course I can move it where I want on the timeline to make sure it's exactly where I want it. So that's the pen tool. Now the other thing we can do is move to a different point right here. The other tools we have here obviously are the rectangle tools. So we can just create a rectangle, and I can do the same thing just by creating a rectangle like that, and you can create a fill or not have it filled. And let's move to a different spot here. And then I can also do the ellipse tool. And again, we just drag and create an ellipse like this, and we can hit the V key and we move that wherever we want here. And then again, we can create a fill or not fill. You can change the colors, and that's why it's great to have this essential graphics open while you're doing it, so you can do the manipulation in here, which is kind of beyond what I want to cover here. I just wanted to cover these tools and how to access them. Just make sure that when you're adding these graphics and you're putting them on the timeline, that they're not overwriting onto one of your tracks. So you have to make sure, watch your track targeting and your source targeting when you're putting these graphics into the line. They used to drag and drop right into an existing track. I think with the newest update, it doesn't seem to be doing that. It seems to be putting it on a level above that track. Let's see if I wanted to add another one right here. Whether or not, let's say if I want to do a type tool, and I want to put type up here, and it puts it right in there. So you'll see that because I already had a graphics open right here, it just put the type within there. So anyway, so those are just the 3 tools that are in there: the pen tool, rectangle tool, ellipse tool. Works in conjunction with your type tool. Use those all together in your essential graphics to create type, squares, circles, and custom shapes, all within your project. Okay, a couple other tools over here are the zoom tool over here and the hand tool. So the hand tool, if you are zoomed out in your timeline, you can use the hand tool to grab a piece of the clip and drag it back and forth manually, just kind of scrolling and grabbing. It just lets you use like a little hand, move it back and forth. I don't really like that tool. I never use it. But the other one is the zoom tool. So instead of using Alt Scroll to zoom in and out, or to grab this down here and to zoom in and out, you can use the zoom key and you hold it over wherever you want to zoom, and you can right click and left click and zoom in, or you can Alt left click and zoom out, and just keep zooming out until you have your little timeline in front of you. You just keep zooming out like that. But I don't really prefer either the hand tool or that zoom tool. I prefer to zoom by doing Alt Scroll, and the hand tool I just never found a need for. Now the T keystroke is very simple. It just brings up the type tool. It just keeps you from having to come over here and select T for your type, and then hit the type tool, and then coming over here and going into your program monitor to just start your typing your graphics. So if you're in, have your selection tool, you come over here, hit the T, it turns into the cursor. And now when you click on your program monitor, it throws your graphic onto the available track right here. So it's very simple. The T tool just brings in that. Now the other thing you could do is vertical type tool. There's no keystroke for this, but if you do a lot of vertical type tool, you could set up a keystroke for that also. Well, thanks for checking out this video on the Adobe Premiere Toolbar and how to use the different tools on the toolbar. Now, I'm going to have a bunch more videos on Adobe Premiere coming up, so think about checking out this playlist over here on my Adobe Premiere and Adobe Photoshop skills. And then think about subscribing down here if you don't want to miss another episode of some of the Adobe things that I'm going to be working on in the future. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.